The massive crystalline dome of the Galactic Council Chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of Space Station Alpha Prime. Hundreds of alien delegates floated, crawled, and glided between the towering data pillars that displayed information. From across the galaxy, the air itself seemed to vibrate with dozens of different breathing patterns and communication frequencies. Councillor Vex Tar's 8 purple tentacles danced nervously around the holographic display, showing Earth's planetary data. His species, the Zeltharians, had been studying dangerous worlds for over 2,000 years, but this particular planet made no sense. The readings were absolutely terrifying. "Look at these numbers again," Vextar said to his aide, a floating, jellyfish-like creature named Pipton. Surface temperatures ranging from -60 to +50 degrees Celsius. Storms that generate enough electricity to power our entire fleet. Earthquakes that crack continental plates. And don't get me started on their wildlife. Pipton's translucent body pulsed with concern. The predators alone should have wiped out any civilization. Tigers, sharks, bears, venomous snakes. Yet these humans not only survived, they made these creatures into entertainment and pets. The hologram shifted to show human cities built directly on fault lines, coastal settlements that regularly faced massive storms, and populations living peacefully alongside creatures that could kill them instantly. Other council members gathered around, their various appendages pointing at the impossible data. 17 expeditions have failed on Kepler 438b, announced Councillor Zexrin, her insect-like mandibles clicking rapidly. The Thoraxian Empire sent their best warriors gone. The Crystalline Collective deployed their most advanced terraforming technology. Destroyed. Even the machine consciousness of Sector 7 couldn't establish a foothold there. Vextar's tentacles twisted into what his species considered a thoughtful pose. If these humans can survive on a Class 0 Deathworld, perhaps they're the key to conquering Kepler 438b. We'll send them there and observe how they dominate such hostile environments. 3 decks below, in the human quarters of the station, Dr. Kim Minho carefully packed his botanical analysis equipment into reinforced containers. Each piece of gear had been designed to withstand extreme conditions. His weathered hands moved with practiced efficiency, a testament to years spent in Earth's most challenging environments. "Another Deathworld assignment," said Park Gina from across the small preparation room. Her survival gear looked like it belonged in a military arsenal, but every tool served a scientific purpose. Environmental sensors, atmospheric analyzers, and emergency shelter components filled her pack. "They really think we're going to blast our way through another planet's ecosystem," Minho chuckled, sealing his sample containers. "Remember what happened with the Androxian Desert mission? They expected us to nuke the sandstorms, and instead we figured out how to predict them using wind patterns." Lihana entered carrying her ecological survey equipment, her face showing a mix of excitement and determination. "I've been studying the preliminary data from Kepler 438b. The energy signatures are unlike anything we've encountered. The planet seems to actively resist colonization attempts. Through the viewport, they could see alien ships preparing for departure. Massive Thoraxian battle cruisers with weapon arrays that could level mountains, crystalline vessels that hummed with terraforming energy, robotic exploration craft designed by machine intelligences that calculated every possible outcome. "Look at all that firepower," Gina observed, watching a Thoraxian dreadnought power up its engines. "They're treating this like a war zone. Maybe that's why they keep failing," Minho said quietly. He shouldered his pack, feeling its familiar weight. "Earth taught us that survival isn't about being the strongest. It's about being smart enough to adapt." The transport bay buzzed with activity as the human team boarded their modest research vessel. Unlike the weapon-laden ships around them, their craft carried scientific instruments, communication equipment, and supplies for long-term study rather than conquest. Alien observers watched from the observation deck, their various forms of vision recording every detail. Some had bet on how quickly the humans would establish dominance. Others wagered on spectacular failure. None expected anything beyond those 2 outcomes. "Initiating departure sequence," announced the ship's AI in a calm voice. The engines hummed, to life with a sound like distant thunder, completely different from the aggressive roar of alien warships. As the human vessel separated from the station, Councillor Vexitar transmitted final instructions. "Remember, we're monitoring everything. Show us how humans conquer impossible worlds." Minho looked at his teammates and smiled. "They still don't understand what makes us different." The ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying its crew toward Kepler 438b, while hundreds of alien eyes watched eagerly for signs of the violence they expected. Behind them, the council chamber filled with excited chatter about witnessing humanity's true predatory nature. None of them suspected they were about to learn something completely unexpected about what it really meant to be human. The landing. Craft's heat shields glowed orange-red as it descended through Kepler 438b's turbulent atmosphere. Lightning bolts thick as tree trunks crackled around the vessel, each strike powerful enough to vaporize a small building. The ship's hull groaned under the pressure of winds that could flatten entire forests on gentler worlds. Dr. Kim Minho gripped, his seat as another massive electrical discharge lit up the cockpit. Through the reinforced windows, he could see the planet's surface approaching fast. Jagged rock formations jutted up like broken teeth, and strange purple vegetation swayed in the violent winds. This was definitely a world that didn't want visitors. "Landing zone confirmed," announced the ship's computer. "Surface temperature 47 degrees Celsius. Atmospheric pressure 3.2 times Earth normal. Warning, detecting hostile. Electromagnetic activity." The craft touched down with a bone-jarring thud on a relatively flat area between two cliff faces. Steam hissed from the landing thrusters as they cooled in the alien air. Above them, the crimson sky continued its endless dance of electrical fury, casting everything in an eerie red glow. Aboard the monitoring station high above, dozens of alien observers pressed against viewing screens. The massive orbital platform bristled with advanced sensors, recording equipment, and communication arrays. Every species in the galaxy had representatives here, eager to witness how humans would handle this notorious Deathworld. "Deployment commencing," reported sensor technician Kickstal, his four eyes tracking multiple data streams simultaneously. "Human vessel has achieved surface contact, awaiting territorial expansion protocols." Commander Velnox, a towering reptilian, being with scales that shifted color with his emotions, watched the main display intently. His scales showed anticipation yellow mixed with curious green. "Begin full spectrum recording. I want every moment of their conquest documented." The betting pools had already started among the crew. Most aliens wagered the humans would begin strip mining operations within the first hour. Others predicted immediate construction of defensive fortifications. The more aggressive species expected orbital bombardment to clear hostile fauna. Down on the surface, the landing craft's airlocks hissed open. Instead of armored soldiers or heavy machinery, three figures in lightweight environmental suits stepped onto the rocky ground. They moved carefully, almost reverently, as if entering a sacred space rather than claiming territory. Dr. Kim Minho was the first to remove his helmet, breathing the planet's air through his suit's filtration system. The atmosphere was breathable but thick with strange particles that made everything smell like copper and ozone. He immediately knelt beside a formation of spiral-shaped fungi that pulsed with internal bioluminescence. "Incredible," he whispered, carefully extracting a small sample container from his pack. "These organisms are generating their own electromagnetic fields. The spiral pattern might be channeling the planet's electrical activity." His spectrometer beeped rapidly as it analyzed the spore samples. The readings showed complex organic compounds, unlike anything in the galactic database. Instead of documenting them for later exploitation, Minho made careful notes about their natural habitat and apparent symbiotic relationships with nearby plant life. 20 meters away, Park Gina had encountered the planet's first fauna. 6 creatures, each the size of a large dog, but walking on 6 insect-like legs, had emerged from cave openings in the cliff face. Their bodies were covered in metallic blue chitin that sparked with tiny electrical discharges. The monitoring station's analysts leaned forward expectantly. "Here it comes," muttered one observer. "The humans will demonstrate their predatory superiority." Instead, Gina sat down slowly, making herself appear smaller and less threatening. The creatures had initially rushed toward the landing site, their mandibles clicking aggressively. But as Gina remained still and quiet, their behavior changed dramatically. "They're not attacking," she called to her teammates, her voice filled with wonder rather than fear. "Look at their body language. The way they're positioning themselves between us and those rock formations. They're trying to warn us about something." She activated her portable scanner, studying the creature's bioelectric patterns. Their carapaces weren't just decorative, they were sophisticated electromagnetic sensors. These beings could probably detect electrical storms hours before they struck. "Fascinating," she murmured, slowly extending her hand toward the nearest creature. "You're the planet's early warning system, aren't you?" Up in orbit, confusion rippled through the observation deck. Alien voices buzzed with bewilderment in dozens of languages. Translator devices struggled to keep up with the rapid exchanges. "Where are their weapons?" demanded a Thoraxian general, his battle-scarred exoskeleton clicking with frustration. "Why haven't they established a defensive perimeter?" "Perhaps this is some form of advanced psychological warfare," suggested a crystalline analyst, her geometric form shifting colors as she processed the unexpected data. "They're studying their enemies before striking." Commander Velnox's scales had shifted to confused purple. "Maintain surveillance. The slaughter will begin soon." But hours passed with no violence whatsoever. Lihana had set up a portable laboratory near a cluster of crystalline trees that hummed with harmonic frequencies. Instead of harvesting them for industrial use, she was documenting how they interacted with the planet's magnetic field. "The ecosystem here is incredibly sophisticated," she reported to her teammates. "Everything is connected through electromagnetic networks. It's like the entire planet is one massive living organism." Her soil samples revealed microscopic creatures that seemed to process electrical energy like plants processed sunlight. Rather than seeing them as potential biotechnology to exploit, she was mapping their natural cycles and ecological relationships. The alien observers watched in growing bewilderment as the humans treated this hostile Deathworld like a delicate garden, rather than a conquest target. Their careful, respectful approach was completely outside the galactic understanding of how aggressive species behaved. As the crimson sun began to set, casting even stranger shadows across the landscape, the three humans had established a small research camp. No weapons had been deployed, no territory claimed, no resources extracted. They had simply begun the patient work of understanding their new environment. The monitoring station buzzed with confused chatter as alien minds struggled to comprehend this unprecedented approach to planetary colonization. The morning sun cast long shadows across what had once been an empty patch of rocky ground. Now, 3 weeks later, a remarkable transformation had taken place. Where the human landing craft had touched down, a small but thriving settlement had grown using nothing but materials found on Kepler 438b itself. Dr. Kim Minho stood in the center of their camp, marveling at what they had accomplished. The shelter. Walls were constructed from the planet's crystalline trees, which had been carefully harvested without killing the living organisms. These trees actually grew stronger when properly trimmed, their electromagnetic properties providing natural insulation against the violent electrical storms that swept across the landscape daily. "The fungal processing is complete," he called to his teammates, holding up a vial of clear liquid. 3 weeks ago, those same spiral fungi had seemed like deadly poison. The monitoring station's computers had classified them as Class A biological hazards. But Minho had discovered something amazing. When the spores were filtered through a process mimicking the planet's own root systems, they transformed into powerful antibiotics that could cure diseases unknown to galactic medicine. The breakthrough had come during his second week of patient observation. Instead of trying to destroy or avoid the fungi, he had watched how they interacted with other organisms. The spores weren't attacking other life forms, they were actually protecting them from harmful bacteria in the planet's harsh environment. Park Gina emerged from behind a cluster of humming crystal formations, her portable communicator glowing with soft pulses of blue and green light. The device had been completely rebuilt using local materials and now looked more like alien art than human technology. "The sparklers are getting better at understanding our signals," she announced, referring to the six-legged creatures that had first approached their landing site. Over the past weeks, she had made an incredible discovery. The creatures weren't randomly aggressive as previous expeditions had reported. They were actually trying to communicate. "Watch this," she said, activating her light pattern generator. A sequence of blue and yellow flashes emerged from the device, creating complex geometric patterns in the air. Within moments, 3 sparklers emerged from nearby cave openings, their metallic chitin responding with matching light displays. Conversation that followed was unlike anything seen in galactic exploration history. Through carefully modulated electrical pulses and harmonic frequencies, the creatures were sharing information about weather patterns, safe travel routes, and resource locations. What 17 previous expeditions had interpreted as attacks were actually detailed warnings about dangerous areas and helpful guidance for survival. "They've been trying to help visitors all along," Gina explained, her voice filled with excitement. The problem was that every other expedition showed up, with weapons and terraforming equipment. The sparklers saw those as threats to their planet's delicate electromagnetic balance. High above in the monitoring station, chaos reigned among the alien observers. Commander Velnox's scales had shifted through every color in his species' emotional spectrum, finally settling on a confused gray that indicated complete bewilderment. "This makes no sense," he growled, replaying the footage for the 100th time. "Where are their mining operations, their industrial complexes, their territorial markers?" Counselor Vextar's tentacles writhed in agitation as he reviewed the daily reports. Every day brought more impossible developments. The humans weren't conquering the planet, they were becoming part of it. His species had built an empire through superior firepower and advanced technology, but these creatures from Earth were succeeding through methods that defied all military logic. "Perhaps they're planning a delayed offensive," suggested his aide hopefully. "Building trust before the final assault?" But even as they watched, Lihana was making another discovery that would shatter their assumptions completely. Deep in a valley between 2 electromagnetic crystal forests, her geological surveys had revealed something extraordinary. The planet's root network wasn't just a collection of plants, it was a planetary nervous system. "The entire ecosystem is connected," she reported through the communication link, her voice crackling with static from the planet's electrical activity. Water, nutrients, even information flow through underground networks that span continents. It's like the whole world is one giant organism. Her discovery had practical applications too. The contaminated water that had killed members of previous expeditions could be purified by simply running it through specific root chambers. The planet itself had been offering clean water all along, but only to those who approached with respect rather than force. "Oh, we don't need to fight this place," Minho transmitted to the orbiting station, his words causing a stir among the alien analysts. "We need to work with it. Every challenge this planet presents has a natural solution, if we're patient enough to find it." The most shocking revelation came during the 3rd week, when Lihana's seismic readings detected artificial patterns deep underground. The electromagnetic signatures were too regular to be natural, too complex to be simple geology. Something intelligent was creating them. "I'm detecting organized electromagnetic pulses from subsurface locations," she reported, her equipment registering. "Signals that followed mathematical patterns. The source appears to be approximately 50 meters below the surface, distributed across multiple locations." Park Gina's communication experiments had taught her to recognize artificial patterns, and these readings matched the complexity of language rather than random natural phenomena. "These aren't geological formations," she realized. "They're structures, built by intelligent beings." The implications hit all 3 humans simultaneously. They weren't the first intelligent life to inhabit this planet. Something was already here, had always been here, hidden beneath the surface and possibly observing every expedition that had ever attempted to colonize their world. "Request permission to attempt contact," Lihana transmitted to the monitoring station, her words causing an explosion of activity among the alien observers. For the first time in galactic history, humans were about to make first contact not through conquest or intimidation, but through the patient understanding they had shown toward every other aspect of this remarkable world. The monitoring station erupted in frantic chatter as species across the galaxy realized they were about to witness something unprecedented. In their violent history of planetary exploration, the first rays of dawn painted Kepler 438b's sky in shades of deep purple and gold. As the twin suns rose above the horizon, something magical happened across the landscape. Every plant, every crystal formation, every living thing began to glow with soft bioluminescent light. The entire planet transformed into a natural cathedral of living illumination. Dr. Kim Min-ho stood at the edge of their camp, his breath catching in his throat as he witnessed the daily light show. But today felt different. The electromagnetic readings on his instruments were fluctuating in patterns he had never seen before. The planet itself seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for something momentous to happen. "Movement detected in Sector 7, Park Gina called softly, her voice barely above a whisper. She pointed toward a cluster of crystal formations where the ground itself seemed to be shifting. Not shaking like an earthquake, but moving with deliberate purpose. The ground opened like a flower blooming in reverse. Smooth stone panels slid aside to reveal perfectly round tunnels that descended into the planet's depths. Soft blue light emanated from within, pulsing in rhythm like a giant heartbeat. The humans exchanged glances, their scientific training warring with natural caution. Then they emerged. The beings that rose from the underground passages were unlike anything in the galactic databases. They stood about 1 meter tall, their bodies composed of what appeared to be living crystal. But this wasn't the rough, jagged crystal found in caves. Their forms were smooth and graceful, with surfaces that bent and reflected light like perfectly cut gemstones. Each being seemed to contain entire galaxies within their translucent bodies. Swirls of color moved through their crystal forms, creating patterns that shifted and changed with every breath. When the morning sunlight touched them, they scattered rainbow spectrums across the ground like walking prisms. Lee Hana's equipment registered incredible energy readings from the crystalline visitors. "They're generating massive electromagnetic fields," she whispered in amazement. "But the energy is completely stable, perfectly controlled." The lead being stepped forward, its movements creating soft chiming sounds like wind through crystal tubes. It had no visible mouth or vocal cords, but somehow Park Gina's communication device began receiving complex light patterns. The signals were far more sophisticated than anything the sparklers had produced. "Greetings, children of the distant world," the patterns translated through Gina's modified equipment. The voice that emerged from the translator had a musical quality, like overlapping harmonies. "We have watched your approach with great interest." Dr. Kim Min-ho felt his knees go weak. First contact. Actual first contact with an intelligent alien species, and it was happening not through military force or diplomatic protocol, but through the patient communication methods they had developed over 3 weeks of respectful observation. "We come in peace," Minho responded, gesturing for Gina to transmit their response through light patterns. "We seek only to understand your world and learn from it." The crystalline being's internal lights swirled faster, creating what could only be described as laughter. "Yes, we know. You are different from the others who came before. Very different." Indeed, more beings emerged from the underground passages, surrounding the human camp but maintaining respectful distances. Their presence transformed the area into a natural amphitheater of living light and gentle harmonics. "Tell us about the others," Park Gina requested, her curiosity overcoming any fear. "The previous expeditions that failed here." The lead being's form darkened momentarily, its internal lights shifting to deeper blues and purples. Through the translator, a story began to unfold that explained everything the humans had observed about this mysterious planet. 17 times, beings from the stars came to our world, the entity communicated. Each time they brought great machines designed to tear apart our land and rebuild it according to their desires. They saw our defensive measures and concluded we were a hostile world to be conquered. The crystalline beings began projecting holographic images into the air above them, showing the arrival of various alien expeditions. The humans watched in fascination as Thoraxian battle cruisers deployed terraforming equipment, attempting to reshape entire continents. Crystalline collective vessels, had tried to impose artificial geometric patterns on the landscape. Machine consciousness probes had sought to digitize and catalog every living thing. Each invader brought violence, the being continued, so we defended ourselves. The electromagnetic storms you call deadly, we intensify them to disable attacking spacecraft. The creatures you call aggressive, we guide them to protect sensitive, i.e., areas from exploitation. The fungi you call poisonous, we enhance their defensive properties to discourage strip mining operations. Dr. Kim Minho felt the pieces falling into place. The planet isn't naturally hostile. You've been making it appear dangerous to protect yourselves from invasion. Precisely, confirmed the crystalline entity. But your people are different. You arrived without weapons of conquest. You studied rather than exploited. You listened rather than demanded. Most importantly, you showed respect for the natural order we have spent millennia creating. High above in the monitoring station, absolute silence had fallen among the alien observers. Every species representative stared at their screens in shock. Council of Extar's tentacles had gone completely still, a sign of profound mental disturbance among his people. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Humans are supposed to be the ultimate predators. They should be demonstrating superior firepower, establishing dominance through force." Commander Velnox's scales had shifted to colors his species reserved for religious experiences. "They're not conquering. They're cooperating." The scene below showed something unprecedented in galactic history. Humans and indigenous aliens were sharing technical knowledge as equals. Lihana demonstrated her geological survey equipment, while crystalline beings showed how they channeled planetary energy through living crystal networks. Park Gina worked alongside alien engineers, combining human communication technology with crystalline light manipulation techniques. The result was a translator system that could convert thoughts directly into harmonic frequencies, enabling near-telepathic communication between species. Dr. Kim Minho's botanical expertise merged with indigenous knowledge of electromagnetic biology, revealing possibilities for medicine and agriculture that could revolutionize multiple worlds. The crystalline beings shared techniques for working with living ecosystems rather than against them. "Your species has a gift we have not encountered before," the lead being told the humans. "Others seek to impose their will upon the universe. You seek to find your place within it." This is wisdom we had begun to believe no longer existed among the traveling peoples. The collaborative projects that emerged from this first day of contact would reshape galactic understanding of planetary colonization. But more importantly, they demonstrated something the galaxy's military powers had never considered. That the greatest strength wasn't the ability to conquer worlds, but the wisdom to become part of them. As the day progressed, the monitoring station's databases filled with revolutionary concepts that challenged every assumption about human nature and interstellar expansion. The galaxy was about to learn that Earth's children carried something far more powerful than weapons. They carried the ability to turn enemies into allies through nothing more than patient understanding and genuine respect. The morning sky over. Kepler 438b had transformed from the violent crimson storms of 6 months ago into gentle waves of aurora-like colors. The electromagnetic tempests that once threatened to destroy any visiting spacecraft now danced in harmony with the planet's natural rhythms. Where once stood a barren landing site, a remarkable city had grown. Dr. Kim Minho walked through the settlement's central plaza, marveling at what they had accomplished together. The buildings weren't constructed from imported materials or conquered resources. Instead, they were grown. Living crystal structures rose from the ground like elegant trees, their walls breathing with bioluminescent patterns that provided both light and communication networks. Human engineering had merged with crystalline biotechnology to create something entirely new. The structures could heal themselves when damaged, regulate temperature automatically, and even relocate if environmental conditions changed. Children of both species played together in gardens, where earth plants grew alongside alien flora, creating hybrid ecosystems that neither species could have imagined alone. "The latest productivity reports are incredible," announced Park Gina. As she approached, her form shimmering slightly, The crystalline beings had shared their ability to temporarily merge with their crystal-based technology, allowing humans to interface directly with the planetary networks. The effect was both beautiful and practical, enabling instant communication across vast distances. Food production is up 300% from projections, she continued, displaying holographic charts that floated in the air between them. The hybrid agricultural systems are so efficient that we're actually producing surplus for export to other worlds. The breakthrough had come when human understanding of genetics combined with crystalline mastery of electromagnetic biology. Crops could now draw energy directly from the planet's electrical field, while traditional photosynthesis provided backup power. The result was plants that grew faster, stronger, and more nutritious than anything previously possible. Lee Hana materialized. Beside them, her research team having just returned from the southern continent. "The ecosystem mapping project is complete," she reported excitedly. "We've documented over 2,000 new species, and every single one has potential applications for medicine, technology, or environmental restoration." The most amazing discovery had been that Kepler 438b wasn't just one planet, but a network of connected worlds. The crystalline beings had maintained communication with their colonies across 17 different star systems, all linked through quantum-entangled crystal networks that enabled instant communication across galactic distances. "The council meeting is starting," Gina reminded them, pointing toward the central communication spire. The massive crystal formation hummed with activity as it prepared to broadcast their progress report to the Galactic Council station. High above in orbit, the monitoring station had undergone its own transformation. What had once been a military observation post was now a diplomatic embassy and research center. Representatives from hundreds of species came to study the human method of planetary integration. Commander Velnox, his scales now permanently shifted to the deep green of profound respect, opened the council session. "6 months ago, we sent humans to conquer what we believed was an impossible world. Today, we're here to learn from their success." Dr. Kim Minho's image appeared in the center of the council chamber, transmitted through the crystal network with perfect clarity. His report would reshape galactic civilization forever. "Esteemed members of the council," he began, his voice carrying the confidence of hard-won wisdom. "Our mission has proven that the fundamental assumptions underlying galactic expansion are incorrect. Success comes not from conquering environments, but from understanding them. Humans adapt by learning, not by destroying." The holographic displays showed the transformation of Kepler 438b from a hostile Deathworld into a thriving paradise. But more importantly, they showed the transformation of human understanding. The colonists hadn't just survived, they had evolved, becoming something greater than they had been when they arrived. "Traditional colonization seeks to impose external will upon natural systems," Minho continued. "This approach inevitably fails because it fights against billions of years of evolutionary wisdom. True colonization requires becoming part of those systems, contributing to their strength rather than exploiting their resources." The council chamber erupted in excited chatter as representatives began to understand the implications. Councillor Vexistar raised his tentacles for attention, his voice carrying a note of desperate hope. "Dr. Minho, we have received requests from 12 worlds previously classified as impossible to colonize. These planets have defeated our best military expeditions and most advanced terraforming technology. Will humans share their methods with other species?" The answer came not from Minho, but from Park Gina, who had founded the Adaptive Colonization Division specifically to address this need. "We're already training mixed species teams in environmental cooperation techniques. The key isn't human uniqueness, it's human methodology. Any species can learn to work with planetary systems rather than against them. The transformation had already begun. Thoracixian warriors were learning patience and observation skills, alongside their traditional combat training. Crystalline collective engineers were studying biological systems instead of only geometric perfection. Even the machine consciousness of Sector 7 had begun incorporating organic elements into their digital matrices. "The galaxy stands at a crossroads." Lee Hana's voice joined the transmission. We can continue the old ways of conquest and exploitation, watching as more worlds become uninhabitable and more species face extinction. Or we can embrace a new paradigm where expansion means integration, where strength comes from cooperation, and where survival means harmony with the universe itself. The voting was unanimous. 12 worlds that had been written off as Class 0 death worlds were reclassified as requires human methodology. The galaxy's most feared designation had become its most requested consultation. Within months, human advisors were working alongside alien colonists on worlds that had seemed impossible. Each success story reinforced the new understanding. True conquest wasn't about dominating nature, but about becoming part of it. The sparklers of Kepler 438b had become ambassadors to other worlds, sharing their communication techniques with species that had never imagined talking to indigenous life. The crystalline beings opened their quantum networks to enable instant consultation across galactic distances. As the years passed, the human method spread throughout the galaxy. Worlds that had been scarred by failed colonization attempts began to heal. Species that had been enemies for millennia found common ground in their shared desire to work with, rather than against the universe. Dr. Kim Minho stood in his garden one evening, watching Earth's moon rise alongside Kepler 438b's 3 satellites. Children of a dozen species played in the bioluminescent flowers, while their parents discussed plans for exploring new worlds together. The humans had proven that true strength came not from being the apex predator, but from being the ultimate adapter. In showing mercy to a hostile world, they had conquered something far more valuable than territory. They had earned respect, changed minds, and transformed the galaxy itself. The greatest victory wasn't the colonization of Kepler 438b, it was the realization that the universe was vast enough for everyone, if only they were wise enough to find their place within it, rather than trying to reshape it in their own image. The end.